Welcome to It's Rafiq. In today's video I am going to explain you about variables and constant in C. Class 9 Computer Science, Chapter 15. C programming is not limited to displaying messages on the screen. It can also be used to perform useful calculations, do complex data processing, work with sound and images, and do anything that a computer can do. For this we should know what are literals, what are letters, what are numbers, which type of special character we can enter in our program, etc. First, the character sets or a character set. A keyword character that can be used in writing C program. We can write three types of character using our computer keyboard. First one is alphabet. It contains character from capital A to capital Z and small a to small z. Digits, here we can enter the numbers from 0 to 9 like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the special symbols, whatever available in our computer. Some example are comma, semicolon, dollar symbol, hash symbol, @ etc. C tokens. The smallest individual unit in a C program is called tokens. C has 6 types of tokens. They are keywords, identifiers, constant, strings, special symbols, and operators. They are the smallest individual unit of C programs. Keywords and identifiers. Both are different. Every token in C is classified either a keyword or an identifier, and both are opposite. Where keywords are reserved, identifier are user defined, means the programmer can define. Keywords are the reserved words that have predefined meaning to the compiler. About compiler you have already learned in previous chapter 14. They are the programs which is used to translate our program into machine language. Means our computer doesn't understand directly the source code of our programs. For that we have to convert it into a machine language, and that work is done by the compiler. And the compiler understood the meaning of the keywords. There are 32 keywords in C, and all the keyword must written in lowercase. Means we have to write in small letters. For example, suppose the keyword break, we have to write in small letter like this way, in small letter BREAK. If we write this way, B capital then REAK, it will be invalid. While you compile the program, it will show as invalid keyword, or it will treat as a identifier. So we must keep in mind, while writing reserved word or keywords, we have to write in small characters. And you can see on the screen a list of keyword available in C program. Now identifiers, they are totally opposite of keywords. While the keywords have a predefined or reserved meaning to the compiler, but identifiers are defined by the user. Identifiers are defined by a programmer in a program, which can be name of a variable, a function, or arrays. So while we define some names in our program ourselves, these are treated as identifier. To define identifier, we have to follow some rules. These are: it is a sequence of one or more letters. A identifier name can be a just single character or a group of characters. It should begin with a letter. Identifier name always start with a letter, like roll number, name, roll number is started with R, name started with N, class class cannot be used because it is an reserved word. characters other than first one can be letters, underscore or digit. As it is a group of character, the first one should be always character. For example, like roll number, here first R is character, after that the second one which is O, it is also character here. But in a program we can here use either letter or number or a special symbol that is called underscore. Suppose R for A, this can be treated as a identifier name. Even this will be a valid identifier, R underscore A. But if we define the identifier as R has A, it is an invalid, because in between the identifier name we cannot use any special symbol unless a underscore. Only we can use underscore in between of a identifier name. The next rule, characters other than uppercase and lowercase letters are distinct. Means C is a case sensitive language. If we define the identifier name as name, everything in small and one capital N, then other are small, and next one everything in capital letter. So this all three are different identifier name for C compiler. For C compiler will treat them as different, not as same. So if we define an identifier as small letters, then in whole program we have to use it in that way only. If we change it, then we'll get error. Identifiers names cannot be matched with keyword. As already I have shown you the keyword list, so your identifier name cannot be from that names. For example, break, case, character, constant, C, int, static and all. This name you cannot use for an identifier. Now let's have some example of valid and invalid identifiers. Suppose I have to define an identifier roll number. If I write like this way, roll space number, it is an invalid identifier name. Our identifier names cannot have any spaces. If required, we can use capital combination of capital and small letters. Suppose roll and here and capital and O, or we can use an underscore, roll underscore no. This way we can use if we have to use 2 or 3 words in our identifier name. And our identifier name cannot start with a symbol or a number, or for example, if we define the identifier name as for roll, it is an invalid, because the identifier name always should start with a character. It should not start with number or symbol. Even if we define our identifier as double, as double is already reserved word, so we cannot use it as an identifier, so it will be invalid. For roll number, it is also invalid. So these are invalid identifier names. To be valid identifier, it should always start with a character. It should not have any spaces in between. It should not include any symbol unless underscore symbol, and it should not match with the keywords. So we have to follow these rules for a valid identifier name. Now constant. Constant refers to fixed value that does not change during the execution of the program. It is also known as literals. Constant can be number or characters. Normally when we define variable, the variable value can be changed during the execution. Means when we run the program, the value of a variable can be changed, but the constant value remains always same. Even when we run the program, the value will be same. To define constant, there are different constant. They are integer constant, Here are the rules for the integer constant. It consists digits from 0 to 9. It must not have any decimal points. It does not include commas or spaces. It can be preceded by a plus or a minus sign. Integer constant are mainly three types: decimal numbers, octal numbers, and hexadecimal numbers that we can use in our programs. Now let's have an example of integer constant. Suppose I am defining my constant as 1, 2, 3, 4. This is an valid integer. If we define as 1, 2, 3, 4, it is invalid. Why invalid? Because it's contain a comma. If I define as 1, 2.23, it is also invalid. Why invalid? Because it's contain a decimal point. A integer constant cannot have any decimal point. An integer constant also cannot have any spaces. Suppose 1, 2 space 4, 5. This is invalid because it's contain spaces, which is not allowed. Again, suppose we have plus 45 or 34. It is an valid integer constant. Or minus 56. It is also a valid integer constant. Our integer constant may have a plus or minus sign before it. We cannot have comma, spaces, or decimal point in integer constant. We should have only the numbers from 0 to 9. And we have mainly three types of integer constant. Their first one is decimal numbers. Decimal numbers are base 10 numbers. Here we'll use digits from 0 to 9, which normally we are using. In decimal numbers, we'll use it using digits from 0 to 9. And after that we have octal constant. And decimal numbers are always known, also known as base 10 number, because it used 10 digits. Then we have octal numbers. It is known as base 8 numbers, and it uses digits from 0 to 7. If you can count the digit from 0 to 7, you will get 8. That's why it is known as base 8 number system. And octal number is always preceded with a 0 character. Suppose if we write a number just 1, 4, 9, we can call it as a decimal number. If we see a number 0, 4, 3, we can say it as a octal number. And we have one more number system. Let's write that one also. That one is hexadecimal. In hexadecimal, it is known as base 16. And here we'll get digits from 0 to 9 and A to F. So if we write, octal numbers always start with 0, and it can contain digits from 0 to 7. And let's have an example of hexadecimal number. Hexadecimal number started with 0 and X. After that, the number. Suppose 5C. It is an hexadecimal number. Now let's have some example of invalid numbers. Suppose we have a number 1, 7, A. It is an invalid number because it does not define as an hexadecimal number and it contains a character. So it will be invalid. And suppose we have an octal number 0, 5, our 6H, it is also invalid. Why invalid? Because it contained the number 8. 8 is not included in octal number, so it is invalid. And suppose we have an hexadecimal number 0x A 4 L or K, it is invalid because K is not included in hexadecimal numbers. In hexadecimal numbers we can use only numbers from 0 to 9 and letters A, B, C, D, E, F, so it is invalid. So there are some example of valid and invalid integer constant. In exam you will get like this question, find out the valid octal constant, and it can be like that 4704704H. From these three numbers, 47 is a decimal number, so it cannot be octal. 047 as it is started with 0, so it is an octal number. And the last one 048, it cannot have in octal numbers, so the last one is also invalid. The middle one is correct, it is an octal number 047. Now let's move back to real constant. That the rules that apply to a real constant are exactly same as integer, only it have one more rule added, that is it can have a decimal point. It can include a decimal point and a character E, or it can include both E and decimal point. And others, all rules are same, so I am not going to read it again. By default, integer constant are type of integer where real constant are double. Means to store an integer will need int type of data, and to store an floating number or real number will need double, means double of the integer. About the data type you will get in next video. Now single character constant. A single character constant represents a single alphabet, a single digit, a single special character within a pair of single quotes. If we write something inside single quote in our program, that is defined as a character constant. It should be noted that character constant 5 is not same as integer constant 5. Character constant have integer values that determined by ASCII values. ASCII means American Standard Code for Information Interchange. They define some values for its keyboard characters. So if we write the character in within single quote, even if it is a number, it will treat as a character. Suppose we defined as 5 and we have numeric constant or integer constant 5. So both are different. This one is character because we have written within single quote, and the next one is integer. And if we write, okay, so we have to remember this one. And ASCII value means in our keyboard whatever characters or whatever keys are there, each key have an particular values, integer values. These are known as ASCII values, and these are very special for a computer program. Then string constant. A string constant represents sequence of characters within pair of double quotes. For example, inside double quote A, hello, how are you, etc. Notice the difference. Suppose just X without anything, then we can say it is a variable name. If we write the x in single quote, we can say it is a character constant. And if we write the x within double quotes, then we can say it is a string constant. So these are the difference between x within single quote, and x within double quotes. When we write the x separately, it is treated as variable. When you write within single quote, it treated as character, and when you write in double, it's treated as string. Then we have skip sequence. Skip sequence are the special non-graphical character preceded by a backslash. Although it consists of 2 characters, they represent a single constant. Normally, skip sequence doesn't display anything in our computer programs, means will not get any graphical outputs. Suppose I want to enter a new line, or I want to enter press enter key or something like that, then we can use /n, and the slash should be the backward slash. And to enter a tab or to keep a tab, then we can write /t. To give an audible bell or to give any warning in our program, then we can use /a. So here you can see on the screen some list of skip sequence. Sometimes it may include more than one character also. For example, the last one /n point to an octal value, /xhh print and hexadecimal values, etc. Now defining constant. To define constant, we can use 2 keywords in our program. First one is define, #define, and second one is constant, CONST, const. Define directive, we can define preprocessor directive. For defining preprocessor directive means when we compile a program, after the main function, it include or it check the preprocessor, means whatever we write at top. Normally we write that preprocessor directive using hash symbol. So when we define using define keyword to define the constant, we'll write it at top of our program. The format is, suppose I want to define the value of pi, then we'll write hash define pi 3.1415. So it will means the pi value will be always this one only. It will never change in the program. And suppose define new line /n. So whenever we write new line in our program, it will treat the value as /n. Const keyword are also can be used to define constant in a program. Here define keyword we'll use normally at the top of the program, and const we can use anywhere in our program. For example, const int height 100 or int const height equal 100, both are same. Then comes variables. They are nothing but just a memory location in our computer which will have some name. A variable is a data name that refers to memory location when data value may be stored. When we do some programs, when we working with our programs, we may have to store some values or datas. That data have to be stored in our computer memory. For that we need variable. We can use variable to store numbers in our computer memory and do the calculations. Suppose I want to do one simple calculation. I want to do 5 plus 7, then I want to get the answer. Then at first the computer memory, the value of 5, the number 5 will stored in a memory location. Then the next number 7 will also be stored in some another location. Then the answer, after processing, it will get the answer as 12, and this 12 will also be stored in some location of our memory. For this reason we required variable. We can also define variable as name portion of memory used to store a value. Each variable needs label with an identifier. For example, a equal 5, b equal 6, c equal a plus b. Means here a, b, c are variable names or variable label. And to label a variable or to define a variable, we have to follow the rules same which we got for identifier. Means it should start with a character, it should not contain any spaces, it should not match with the reserved words, etc. In next class we'll discuss about data types. For today's video this much only. See you in the next video. Till then, take care and bye.